Hey, thanks again for pressing play. And welcome once again to another edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast, brought to you by the BLEAV Podcast Network and sponsored by FanDuel. Matthew, I finally won some bets on FanDuel this past week and did a couple of those parlays, I believe they're called, where you take three things and you combine them together and you get more money for it. They entice you so much, dude. You ever done a parlay?
I have not. But did we talk about how you did a parlay and the Eagles guy spit on Dak Prescott?
Oh, yeah.
He was first part of your parlay.
Yeah, I had Jaylen Green or Jalen Carter getting a sack, and like he walked out, spat on Dak Prescott, and was out of the game. Yeah. And then the next night was Friday, the Chargers and the Chiefs, and I had Xavier Worthy going for 40 yards, and Travis Kelce's like, "You like Taylor Swift?" Bam. But no, I hit on one. I kind of like teasers when it comes to football. I bet on. I take the points down, and do some fun things. So if you're going to do that, do it on FanDuel. Media Day, bro. Media Day.
Yeah, Media Day.
Oh, man.
I'm back. You asked me out of 10. I think I'm at a 10 right now. I'm excited. I am, for a lot of different reasons.
Fully at noon. Like, I'm not at 10, I'm at a 12. Fully erect, man. It was so great being at PHX Arena, seeing all of our friends, seeing the new Suns. So we're going to talk about that and much, much more on this edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast. Make sure you subscribe, rate, review. I'm going to go with a Papago blueberry wheat beer.
Yeah, I tried that.
You had these when you were at my house today. What's your review?
Yeah, I said very smooth. Not too bad. I wasn't excited, but it's not too bad.
Okay, well, smell it first. Ooh, it smells like a little blueberry. Let's talk about the Suns. Let's talk about Media Day.
Always smell.
Session podcast, shooting the shit about the Suns since 2019.
Dude, I'm sorry if I come off as super excited, but there's something about going to Media Day, seeing the players in purple and orange, the new faces, which there's plenty of this year, that it reinvigorates me. And I think that this summer was a good summer, both for you and me, here on the Suns Jam Session podcast. We took more time off this summer than I think we ever have since we started recording episodes back in November of 2019. And I was kind of asking myself, I'm like, when's the jump start going to happen? Because normally, I mean, you've worked alongside me and you've known me for quite some time. You know that I'm always like, go, go, go. And this offseason, I kind of went slow. But today, dude, it reinvigorated me. Walking into that arena, how did you feel going through the metal detector for the first time this year?
I think once I parked my car and I noticed hey, there's plenty of parking spots here. And I'm like, wait, is this free parking for real? Because there's no one to validate your ticket or anything like that. Once I got that, and I parked next to channel 12. So I'm like, okay, I think I'm good. Once I got, past the street, opening the door because it was closed, and then through the metal detector, I felt great. I felt really good. I felt like just back at home in a way, just like at ease, like everything's gonna be okay. It kind of seemed like when you go on vacation from work, like you miss 4 or 5 days on vacation, you think everything's gonna be so different, and then when you get back, it's exactly the same. That's how I felt.
Here's what was different this year, because this team doesn't have expectations like it did in the past. Because Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal aren't there to give sound bites to the media, it was very easy to find a place to sit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You, me, and Brandon Dunias, who all, we're there representing brightside-of-the-sun.com. We took the whole back row and just kind of sat there and chilled. I could stretch my legs out. In the past, I sat so close to Brian Windhorst that I could see that he forgot to take off a little piece of shaving toilet paper because he nicked himself that morning. And I'm okay with that. It's kind of, that was my first takeaway walking in. I'm like, oh man, the NBA doesn't care about the Suns anymore. The national media does not care about the Suns anymore. And you know what? It's going to make for a very fun and engaging year, because I felt the overall theme of Media Day was one of more transparency and less of again, there's no championship aspirations for this team. There's developmental aspirations. There's process-oriented aspirations. And so you're not getting it wasn't a pep rally. It wasn't rah-rah like the last two have been. This one was more, I feel, down to earth, subdued, but also personal in a way. Did you get that feeling?
Yeah, definitely. It seems like it gets smaller and smaller. And I kept hearing guys come in and be like, it's shrinking year to year. Because even last year, it seemed like it was a smaller kind of show up. The first year, I think it was really packed. And the year before that, with Brian Windhorst, when he was there with you, it was even more packed. But right now, it's just kind of just everyone just, it's below the radar, exactly where I feel like this franchise needs to be, especially the media side of things, Twitter side of things, like just get back below the radar. That way, there's not a whole lot of attention on this team. There's not so much negativity to start the season with, because I know there's lawsuits and all of that behind the scenes, supposedly. But on the court and with the players, it seems like, this team's ready for a season of just nothing to really, no expectations, but just they can go out and play their game and not worried about getting booed by the Suns fans after game 2. So that's what it felt like, the relief of that.
It really did. And again, it was a lot more candid. And I feel, it kicks off obviously with Matt Ishbia, and he gets up there and he had a quote, and gosh, I should have had this prepared and ready to go in front of me. But he essentially had a quote that a lot of people kind of took wrong, right? He was talking about success. I hope that we win more games than we won last year. But the truth is, it's not going to be measured in wins and losses, but it's going to be measured in success. Did you find that quote at all confusing, or do you know exactly what he means by that?
No, at first, I scratched my head. I'm like, hold on one second. What is that even supposed to mean? But after a few seconds, it settles in, because you realize what a mess last year was. Let's get the wins and losses out of the way. Let's just look at what's on the court, what's behind the scenes, what's in the locker room, what's the main goal for this team. Let's make sure that's working. Then we move into the actual game itself, and wins and losses, the wins will come eventually. But we got to worry about everything else. We got to make sure that everything else is in place to where everyone matches exactly what Booker wants to bring this year to Phoenix in the coming years, the championship team. So obviously that's not this team this year, but the mentality and stuff and the way that the fans are reacting to this team every game at home and on when they're playing away, sitting in their living room, not throwing shit at the TV. That's the way it was last year. When they're not doing that and they're excited about this team just going to sleep, that's a success. I think that's really where he's coming across, and that's what he's saying. Obviously, he talks very fast, and
yes, he does.
He might stumble on some things where, you probably shouldn't have said that because you're going to get Twitter going crazy. But I understood what he meant after a few seconds there. What about you?
Same thing. It's literally what we've been saying this entire offseason, and the same message that he's been stating since the season ended. And he had that press conference when he was just like explaining what went wrong and how he needs to correct it. And next season, he's literally laid the breadcrumbs where he's like, we're focused on culture. Wins will come, but culture has to come first. And it was a fortification of that. And I even had some friends like text me like, fucking here we go. That doesn't make any sense. And SB Nation managing editors were saying the same thing. I'm like, no, it's like exactly what I expected him to say was, and how I'm looking at this season is I'm not looking at success through the lens of wins and losses. I'm looking at successes through the lens of development and implementation of processes and culture and communication. And night to night, that's what we're going to be focused in on here. And we're going to be observing, and that's what we'll celebrate when you and I are doing post-game podcasts, because we'll be here after every single Phoenix Suns game this year, and we'll be having those conversations. Did we see development? What did that development look like? That's what success is this year. And, he mentioned it with the Mercury, where just that's kind of the route that they've taken. And it's the same thing now for the Suns, where it's no longer about getting the wins and the losses and having the expectations of that. Rather, it's about having milestones along the way in which you can celebrate how this team's direction is going. So he did mention the lawsuit. One of the funniest moments, in my opinion, was, Greg Esposito from PHNX asked him about all the lawsuits and all that stuff. And, Matt Ishbia kind of clapped back. He's like, well, anybody can sue anybody. I could sue you for that question. And Espo's like, well, I prefer if you're not, a typical like Espo answer. And so, I don't know how much weight to take from any of the lawsuit stuff, but, for the most part, I felt that I felt it was a good press conference from Ishbia. I feel like he does a lot of good press conferences. He felt just a little less caffeinated, which is always a good thing. What do you think?
Really? I thought he was still on.
He took a sip of water a couple times. I was like, whoa, he slowed down and took some water.
Did?
I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely could talk. So that's the one thing is he comes out right away to start the thing, and he just keeps going and going and going, rambling, talking about the Mercury, talking about the success they have. It seemed like he talked maybe about 5 or 6 minutes, maybe trying just to avoid questions, and hopefully it would be over by the time he was done talking because it went on for a while. But, he's a businessman. He wants to sell his team again. And this team right now is basically, I feel like last year was where they hit rock bottom, had to go to rehab, and now they're just back out there trying to make it, right? Because I feel like the last 2 years is when you hit rock bottom, when you're just drinking and you're just fucking doing drugs and losing everybody in your life. That was the last 2 years of the Phoenix Suns, and that's how dark it got. And now we went to rehab this summer. We came back, and we're sitting there, and we're just trying to get our feet underneath us, and that's exactly what the Suns are this year. So we did kind of sell that in a way where he has to avoid the lawsuits, all the negativity, try to push the positivity back out there to the crowd, and just realize like, hey, like I messed up. And that was my favorite part of the whole thing. It's just him showing up and saying that he takes ownership of everything that happened the past 2 years. He made mistakes, and it's not going to happen again. So if you want to believe him, you can believe him, but there's always something there with him where he can just kind of win you over, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's why he's good at what he does. And again, I still am in the camp of, walk the talk. So we'll see. But he's saying the right things. We're seeing it through actions thus far. He has walked the talk since the moment the season ended last year, and he held a press conference, which not every owner does. And he talked about what needs to occur. We've seen those steps occur. Now it comes down to what occurs on the court. Before we get into other questions and everything, a shout out to everybody who's here in the chat. It's good to see you again, guys. Man, it's like, here we go. Let's a couple questions here. Lee Corso. Hey, man. I love Lee Corso. Says, what up, boys? What does success look like to you? Are they competitive in games? Are they competing for a play-in? What does it look like to you? What do you think, Matthew?
Success for me is like, it has to be just the outside, not Suns fans, but the outside fan base of the NBA. Maybe looking over at this team like, oh, I forgot they have Mark Williams. Oh, they got Colin Gillespie. Oh, they have Kaman Malawatch. Like, there's guys on this team that I feel like will attract other maybe fans, future fans to this team to where they're just more exciting, right? We're not winning every game, but there's a lot of eyes on us in a positive way. I think success is towards the end of the year, the last 10 games, can we push it to where we get hot and make the play-in? I think the excitement in the crowd is going to be a success. Like going to the games and actually knowing like this team is going to get the crowd on its feet. They're going to believe in this team again. That's success to me after going through what we went through.
So I'm going to quote what Matt Ishbia, so after that quote that a lot of people misunderstood, he quote tweeted it, and he said the following, and I agree a lot with this. He says, success is making our fans proud of our team and excited to watch every game. Success is getting better every day all season. Most of all, success is building a championship culture and identity here in Phoenix. We are working on this with the Suns, similar to what we were doing with the Phoenix Mercury, and I do think we'll win more games this season too. That's what success is to me. Success to me, Matthew, is you and I coming on for post-game podcasts, and we're not just so unbelievably frustrated night in and night out, that we're seeing breadcrumbs of what there is to come, that we're seeing the development occur. That's what success is going to be. So, yes, it is competing more. Being a play-in team, that would be highly successful for me. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think that would be a marker of success for this team. So we'll see what happens this upcoming season. Other interviews that occurred, again, kind of circling through. We had Jordan Ott.
He's Jordan Ott, the best coach Sparty money has bought. Yes, he's Jordan Ott.
Dude, I'm going to be singing that shit all day tomorrow. That's catchy as hell. I can't wait to start making drops, man. I was thinking about him today at Media Day. I'm like, Mark Williams.
Billboard top 10. Billboard top 100 right there. It's number 98.
But I did get a chance to ask Jordan Ott a question today.
Son, good to see you. Excited for this season. You're being handed a roster with so much rookies. When it comes to just youth, the youth movement is alive in Phoenix. Has there been a strategic approach that you have that you're going to execute during this season relative to bringing them into their development? Because for the short-term success of this team, we want to be competitive, but for the long-term success, you need to develop them properly. So do you have that kind of approach? And if so, what does that look like?
No, it's my belief that anyone can develop. I think rookie, second year, fourth year, 10th year player, we all can develop, including us as staff, coaches, performance staff. This is the development world. You know, we all want to be lifelong learners. It's the same on the basketball court. So we're going to have plans in place for not only the rookies, but the veteran players as well. It's going to be an intentional way to develop them for not only this current season, but in seasons to come. And it starts with the prep. And we've done a great job, you know, led by the front office in summer league. We started it already. We will have very deliberate goals of what we want these guys to achieve and help them along the way to get there. So it doesn't matter, rookie, second year player, 10th year player, 12th year player, we're all about development because that's what we believe in, and that's what's going on around the NBA. We see it every day.
I sounded a lot more coherent in my question asking than I felt asking the question.
Yeah, no, I know. I feel like when you're in the middle of that, you probably like, this probably makes no sense. And I think Devin Booker, who was asking him a question? He's like, I don't even know what you're saying, or he's like, I didn't understand what you said.
Was it Cameron Cox?
No, it was
right in front of you.
I think Dana. Was
maybe
it Dana?
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know, but no, yeah, it was pretty clear, man. Good.
Okay, it was coherent, and he gave a good answer, and I think that's so. I got a couple different points on this, but before I get to those points, what did you think of the question and the answer?
It's what you want to hear. I think it's just a solid answer. Development, because that's what we're looking forward to this year, I think.
So, first and foremost, I really like Jordan Ott as a head coach. I was at his first presser when he was introduced as head coach. I spoke to him briefly afterwards, and I talked about this on the podcast when it occurred. You know, shook his hand, looked him in the eye, and I liked what I saw. You know, and I just felt like Vogel wouldn't do that, and Budenholzer was too glassy-eyed to know that you were shaking his hand. Whereas Jordan Ott, like, he's, you know, good handshake and just very cerebral guy, a basketball nerd in every sense of the word. And the reason I asked that question is because that's something that I've been very vocal about on brightsideofthesun.com and something I'm very interested in watching this year. And I'm trying to think of potentially coming up with a theme of articles to write for Brightside about the development of these rookies, because you need to be strategic in the way that you approach this. You can't just throw them out there to the wolves and expect that, you know, well, sink or swim, guys. Let's see. It's like, because we don't have, like, in the past, 10 years ago, when we were amidst development and being in the lottery perennially, you could kind of throw some of those guys in the wolves, or to the wolves, not the Timberwolves, but the wolves, and see if they could sink or swim. Because if they didn't swim, you had draft picks next year and you could do it all over again. We don't have those draft picks next year. We don't have that opportunity. We need to be strategic in the way that we approach our development. And I like the fact that, again, it's nothing you're going to get at media day is going to be mind blowing or earth shattering, but it was an acknowledgement of the fact that, yes, we have milestones set in place for these guys and all members to assist in their development. I just think it's going to be unbelievably important to bring on Kaman Malawach and Rasheer Fleming, especially those two, in a manner that is conducive to make them successful and confident as they're young players who need to improve both those characteristics.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think even having the veterans that are willing to teach, that's just as important. I think even Dillon Brooks, you talked about, you know, bringing on the young guys and making sure that they're confident this year, like kind of not too much, you know, bringing them up to pace, like where it's too much for them to handle, but just like kind of give them that guidance that they need to kind of quicken it up a little bit, but not make it too much for them to handle, but also just that they can learn along the way too. Like that's a guy that's willing to teach too. Obviously, Devin Booker is one of the guys too. So having those two veterans to be those guys, that's huge. And even bringing in, we didn't talk about Steve Nash, but to the front office, like another guy that's going to help with the development. It's going to be there probably every day helping these guys. So it's a good culture. And I mean, even Nick Richards was talking about how Man, sorry. I messed that up. Yeah, come on, Malawach. Man. Is a guy that's goofy. He's funny, like the other rookies, but he takes things seriously, and you can tell how Nick Richards isn't really a veteran, but he's been in the league long enough to where I think he can just show him how to play that position. So lots to look forward to with that.
It is. Again, there's some good depth there and some good development opportunities. Moving along, Devin Booker.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is
Big Dick Booker. 11th season for Big Dick Booker. He returns to the Valley. What were your thoughts on Devin Booker?
So
What do you think
initial
of his goatee?
thoughts. He does look. I don't know. He looks good. He looks the same, right? The goatee kind of stands out a little bit. I don't know. He just always looks fresh, man. It looks nice. It looks beautiful. You know, a guy that wants to just kind of get this thing over with, you know, he's been that guy of the past few years. You know, you can just kind of tell the questions and stuff. Very serious guy, wants to give his answers out there, but he kind of opened up more. And you pointed out, I think you're writing an article too with the Burns and Gambo show, talking about the last few seasons, how hard it was. I'm sure you'll tap on that a little bit, but also that's just a huge thing to kind of just throw out there. But I think it gives us as Suns fans just a better understanding by just a few sentences of just saying that was the toughest season or 2 seasons of my career, because you can tell, and he even said this, not everybody had the same goals as him, right? He didn't say as him, but just not everybody did. That means that he was obviously on a different level or looking elsewhere, while some other players who were probably not on his team anymore could care less of what Booker wants with his team and championship aspirations. That's what I took away from it. And I think that was nice to hear, because a lot of us, including me, not a lot of us, but I was, let's get rid of Book. Let's get draft picks. Let's rebuild. But to have this guy just really kind of just lay it down, like, I'm still here, unfinished business, wanting to win a championship. That's what really got me going. And that's why I'm at a 10 now, almost an 11, not a 12, but almost an 11. Excitement.
But again, it's transparency, right?
Yeah.
Now, granted, and I'll talk about that quote momentarily, because he talked to Burns and Gambo after, you know, the initial kind of sit down with the full media, and that's where he provided that quote. And I do want to spend some time on that, because I do think that, again, it is validation of the experiment. Because at media day, you get so many vanilla answers. Yeah, it just didn't work out. You know, I wish him the best. Blah blah blah. Booker came out looking pissed off.
Yep.
I've been to numerous media days. I've never not seen Devin Booker smile. He didn't smile once. And if you look at like all the Getty Images stock photos, you know, if you're writing an article for Bright Side of the Sun, and you use WordPress and you want to find a picture to use, and you go through all the media day photos, he's not smiling in one of them, dude. And I don't know if like that's a good thing or a bad thing. Is he pissed off because he is being forgotten about, and that the expectations aren't here for the Suns, and he wants to be competitive and he wants to be a part of a championship team? Or is he pissed off because the expectations aren't here, and he, you know, he's like, fuck me, man. Like, look at all these young guys running around wide-eyed and bushy-tailed. Or is he just understand that this is a process? It's part of being a member of any NBA team, and you go through the media day and you have to hit your stations and take your pictures and answer your questions and carry the fuck on with your life. You know, it was very it was a very business-like approach from Devin Booker today, I felt. I will say the goatee looked absolutely fantastic. The quote that you're mentioning is something that he sent, or he said to Burns and Gambo. He said there was a disconnect on the team last year, which fucking duh. But here's what he says. He says, I don't think there was any hatred in our last group amongst the guys. I just think when you all are on a different plan and you don't have the same common goal or same objective, then that's what it turns into. And then he added, the last 2 years were the toughest of my career, which is kind of crazy, because they weren't supposed to be the toughest of his career. These were supposed to be the glory days. These are supposed to be what he worked so hard for. This super team's going to come to me. And now here he is on the other side. His friends are gone. He's all alone. And he basically fortified what we already knew. But again, there's something about the transparency and saying it out, saying the thing in silent out loud, the acknowledgement that this team was working in a bunch of silos. It was a bunch of me's versus we's. And we know that. We watched it every fucking night. We saw it time and again. It's like, dude, this team doesn't communicate on defense. They care about them. Even comments that Kevin Durant has made recently, where, you know, they essentially was just talking about how he wasn't properly utilized. Again, it's like, dude, you took all the shots, you made all the points, and you still weren't properly fucking utilized. Like, good luck, Houston. By the way, with Fred VanVleet getting injured, dude, fuck, man, that team is brutal injury. But dude, KD might be out of there
before the trade deadline.
Do you know how
He
many
might
fucking
be- he
turnovers
might
he's going to
be
have next
in-
year?
and with the Warriors. I'm just saying, like, that team's not going to last.
And I
enough for
love
him.
what Keith Nettles just said in the chat. And Keith, it's good to see you again, bud. Says, I'll take cohesion over talent. And that's
Yeah.
what the difference is between this year's. Because last year, again, these teams worked, or the team worked, and the individual players worked in individual silos. And there was no communication. There was no cohesion. There was no accountability. And that's what, when you have a young team like this, it's going to be so vitally important for Devin Booker to be vocal, which he said he's going to be, and something that he's like, I am vocal. Again, remember, he was, his hand was slapped last year by his head coach for being too vocal. Now, whether or not that was a story leaked to the press by Booker's team, the team that surrounds him,
Yeah.
in order to shed light on a situation, we might never know until the book gets published 50 years from now. But with this young team, now you can really, and that's what the Suns are trying to do, is develop this culture. And it's so important because when you have these high-priced mercenaries coming in, you really can't do that, man.
No, you can't. And it kind of started too with KD talking about how the offense was just too much for it. Not too much for him to handle, but it was in a way just too much. Like, just kind of simplify things. That's kind of what he wanted, right? So that to me just shows, like, not only him, it might have been other players too that just didn't want to buy into what they were trying to do last year, whether that's the coach or whether that's just the players themselves not being good enough. We'll never know, but we kind of know now with Booker just leaking this, where it is a leak to me. It's something that I feel like Booker's never opened up in that way to talk about anything, because he's always an in-house guy. Like he mentioned a few times at the press conference.
He did.
Keep things in-house, but I'll let you know, like, for me as a fan, that's what I needed to hear to believe in Book again, because those other guys, you can kind of just be like, whether it's Beal or Kevin Durant, I always was wondering, like, are they even wanting to win a championship here? Is that their goal? And then I start to think, oh, is that Devin Booker's goal too? Does he not care anymore, wanting to win a championship here in Phoenix? Is he just okay with his life, which he should be, and just, go about his day, make his money, and just not worry about the wins and losses? But this to me just shows that he is, and some other players have said it too today in the media day, where this team might succeed and might be better than a lot of people might give them, like, their share, and that might be what happens this season.
Yeah, I mean, there's the potential to surprise, but just given the state of the Western Conference, I want to believe, but I'm pessimistic. Cautious. I'm not even cautiously pessimistic. I'm just actually pessimistic. All right, there's an article that you have coming out on Bright Side of the Sun about the guy whose drop. I need to edit this drop because it copyright infringes every time I do it, but I still love it so much. I'm going to play it.
Dillon, the villain.
Dillon Brooks, man. Dillon Brooks. In fact, I even we'll come back to Jaylen Green, but Dillon Brooks, man, like, this guy left an impression on you, right? Tell me what you saw from Dillon Brooks today, man. I'm glad he didn't look me directly in the eyes. I probably would have peed myself.
Oh my God. So I'm gonna, like, kind of just, I don't want to say this, but just to be light, I'll say he's kind of has a demonic kind of presence to him when he enters the room, and the room meaning the concourse of PHNX Arena,
PHX.
big enough to let a PHX. Excuse me.
You said PHNX. Like, Espo has a whole arena.
Yeah, it's named after their pod now. That room though, where enough energy in there to really kind of swallow us whole. The guy has it. Like, we always kind of question this dude, not being a Phoenix Sun. Just, how tough is he? What is this guy behind the scenes? Is it all fake? Obviously, he's leaning into his villain thing, and it's going to be old news pretty soon because he's going to be a fan favorite here in Phoenix. Like, he already is to me. But his presence, man, it's something else. Like, Kevin Durant, his stare down was a little bit worrisome and just kind of make you pee your pants a little bit. This guy, though, he has a look to him, and his aura is there, but also
yes,
he freaks the shit out of me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, like he did, like, he brings that. If he wants to turn it on, I'm not saying that other NBA players are scared of him, but there is something there that he uses against those players defensively, and just the attitude he has. Like, I can just feel it in that arena tonight or today.
Yeah, him walking in, he embraces who and what he is. And we know that. And it's what's going to be such an interesting wild card this season. Because when you look at how this roster is constructed, and you have young wings like Ryan Dunn, and you have Nigel Hayes-Davis who's going to try to have an opportunity to make an impact on this team, and Rasheer Fleming. Dillon Brooks is going to be one of those guys who not only is going to be charged with nightly being the pest, being the deterrent, being the person who brings the attitude era to the Phoenix Suns, but also some development of some of those young guys. I think, that's something that doesn't get touched on enough, but like he's going to lead how to be a badass for some of these guys. Like I want to see what Ryan Dunn looks like after playing next to Dillon Brooks some. And does he, is this like Brooks and Dunn, like neon moon or some shit that we're going to get copyrighted? Yeah, but he brings it, he said he's like the one-on-one battle I love. I take a lot of pride just bringing that competitive fire every single night. Just a lot of those kind of quotes where he's just, he talks about, he's like, if you meet me, you like me. And if you play against me, you don't. And that's the way I like it. He came in as kind of like, I'm a badass. And he left the stage. And I was like, yep, he's a badass. Like he's just, I'm excited. Again, another guy I'm just highly intrigued to watch play for the Phoenix Suns and see what that looks like as we're trying to change. He's everything that the Suns weren't last year, right? And that's what makes him intriguing.
Yeah, and in the Houston series against the Warriors, too, that went 7, he was one of the best players on the court for the majority of that series. So he's still going up the ladder a little bit in his career to where he's still learning and improving. So that's nice to have in a veteran like him, but he's also a dude that has a scary side to him, but you can tell like when he is behind the scenes with those guys, like you said, he's just himself. And 2 years ago when he was almost out of the league, he said, and that was one of my favorite things at the press conference where he talked about he had to look himself in the mirror. He's like, are you going to go for it? Are you going to do it? Are you going to buy in and just, kind of lean towards that way of just being the villain and being that kind of player? And he did. So this team they have a good side of emotions to them, right? That you want to, like, good balance, right? Booker's a very serious guy, but a lot of these guys like to have fun. And then you also have the guy in Dillon Brooks who's like
no fun for any of you.
no fun for any of you.
He just punches.
But behind
them.
the scenes, then he pulls out his willy and they have fun. Like, I don't know. Whatever they do, I don't know.
So, question here, shifting as fast as I can away from that. Jaylen Green. So, yes, I mean, obviously, you and I sit next to each other the whole press conference. We watch everything, but we don't talk about how we felt about individual players and their press conferences and how it goes until we're live on air at a podcast. What do you think of Jaylen Green's presser?
I actually liked it. And it's not like it's not a guy, obviously, you can tell that doesn't want to be public speaking in a way, but he also is, to me, he's like he's just kind of like an insecure dude up there, just not sure of himself yet. That's just what I take away from him. Obviously, I don't know the dude, but but I like that. I like it. It's very raw, and it just, that's kind of like his game on the court, right? He's still kind of raw. Has a lot of improvement to where he can be a guy that can create space and to make plays for himself, and obviously make some shots in the playoffs. But also, he's a guy that I just feel like he's almost there, but he just needs some more guidance. And you can just kind of see it on display today at the podium. And I liked it. He's true to himself, touching his hair a lot and stuff like that. You can kind of see he's kind of nervous a little bit. I mean, what did you think of him? It was different, but
I like your take on that because I didn't necessarily have the same take. I thought it was somebody who, again, body language and tone, I was very just kind of like, this guy doesn't exude confidence. This guy is somebody who should be coming in here kind of pissed off, right? The Houston Rockets just had their best year with him, or his best year in his career with them, and they traded him after they told him, "No, man, we're not trading him." Now, granted, it's for Kevin Durant. I get that, but he did, like, Booker came in pissed off. Jaylen Green came in lackadaisical. Body language was just kind of somewhat off-putting. The answers were, he's talking about working on his in-between game, which is, like, in my opinion, the last thing he needs to be working on. He should be shooting the 3-ball or working on the 3-ball. 46% of his shot diet is from beyond the arc. and he shot 35%. Like, maybe work on that. But he's like, no, man, the mid-range, the in-between game. It's like, no, that's where Devin Booker excels, dude. Like, work on that 3-ball and attack the cylinder. That's what's going to open up the offense for this team. It's what's going to open up the offense for you and create a successful season for you. So I wasn't necessarily impressed with that. But when you say it in that context, where it's like, yeah, he just seems kind of I don't like public speaking. I just want to kind of hang back, not necessarily an outgoing, which a lot of people aren't.
Yeah. He's not Kawhi level, but you can tell he's just kind of to himself, which is fine. He obviously gets along. They were doing the photo shoots and stuff. They were having a good time then, but I just think in front of people, like, he just doesn't. He's like, I'm not going to give you anything here. Like, you just got to come watch me. I think he's still a guy that works hard behind the scenes. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't be on this team right now.
Okay.
I don't know.
I want to see.
Think? Are you worried about him after?
I am a little bit worried.
Really?
It's just a press conference. It's just a press conference.
I'm worried
about his fit here.
Yeah,
I'm excited. Again, another reason why this will be an intriguing season. It's like, what the fuck is Jaylen Green going to be? Right? Like, that's exciting. But this is, and again, I preface it with that same concept. Like, you don't get a lot from these pressers, right? But at the same time, like, I wasn't impressed in any capacity. I thought he was going to come in and just have a little bit more spunk to him, a little bit. He should have a youthful exuberance. But what the fuck do I know? I mean,
yeah, it's hard to tell. Yeah, well, it's hard to tell on there. But he is a kid that won't take out the trash or the dishes before his mom comes home and just doesn't do it. And Booker's the guy that gets everything done. He's already out with his friends and stuff because he got all his chores done. Like, so those guys might be a little different in that way. But I don't want to disregard like what he can do on the court. I just think some of these dudes are just that way where they just don't want to. They don't have it in them to give that energy to the media, and I don't blame them. I don't care. Just as long as on the court he's still maturing, that's all that matters.
Yeah, fair. Lee Corso says in the chat, he says, John, why are you worried about Jaylen Green? Are you worried about the consistency? Are you worried about the defensive end? He should be a lockdown defender. I'm worried about all of the above. I'm worried about, obviously, he's not an efficient scorer, never has been in his career, has never showcased that he is a consistent, efficient scorer. I'm worried about his playmaking abilities because it's going to be point book. But there's going to be times where, again, he's duplicative of Devin Booker. They're both two guards. So you're forcing Devin Booker to play out of position. I'm not a fan of that. Can Jaylen Green run the point? Not necessarily. Doesn't have a really good history with that. Not a great three-point shooter. Great at putting pressure on the rim. But if you look at his shot chart, the right side of the floor is a fucking vast abyss of emptiness. It's like the nothing from the never-ending story. If you force him to go left, you win all the time because he shoots like 25% all the different zones on the right side of the court. And that worries me. And then there is the defensive end. Now, granted, I think that there's going to be an institution of some defensive schematics that are going to allow Jaylen Green and Devin Booker to be more successful as guards because you're going to have Dillon Brooks, because Ryan Dunn probably is going to play the 4, because Mark Williams is going to play the 5. So they're going to have the ability to gamble a little bit more on that end. But and due to the fact that he is youthful, he is going to have the ability to press more, which is going to be needed and something that Jordan Ott talked about. And Grayson Allen really talked about it a lot, about the modern NBA and how it's a lot of full court coverage now and how, that's kind of changed. So a lot of things are just unanswered, and it's a new situation for the guy, right? It's the first time that he's been traded in the NBA. Now he's only 23 years old. There's a lot of potential for upside. His athleticism is through the roof, but we haven't seen it yet. And it could really be one of those situations where it's going to be a lot of the future of the Suns depends on what Jaylen Green could be. You know what I mean? Because if he's great, it becomes a great trade because you get whatever come on Malawatch is going to be out of it. But if he's not great, he tanks somewhat of what his value is, and you trade him next offseason when he's got 2 years, $66 million left on his contract.
So he might be like the most watched, like not Aiden watch, but he might be that guy every game where we're just watching to see what he
100%, dude.
Because it can be one of those things where it's like he did work on a few things. Like I don't mind him working on the mid range, the floaters and stuff like that, only because I feel like if he has to get a shot, we got to kind of count on him to get his shot. You know what I mean? If it can't be only Book, right? if he's shooting more threes, I mean, what was he shooting? 40% of his shots were threes. Like he was
46%, dude.
46%. So if he's not hitting threes, then yeah, get a bucket elsewhere. But I think it's just, is he able to kind of keep up with this team in a way to where he can see the court like Booker and everybody else and just kind of catch on quick with Dillon Brooks and stuff, and just make sense of this offense. If he can, then obviously he's very valuable. But that's the thing, is his immaturity. Is he immature? We don't know yet, but we'll see it throughout the season. But I think we should have kind of a little bit of a watch on him this season, like Ayton, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we have Mala watch, but it might be Jaylen Green watch.
Yeah, but he might not be playing as much either. So
very true, true. Yeah, that could be just an idea for an initial drop for Jaylen Green. Yeah. It's just like, like, what did Green do today? Some shit like that.
Green.
What else stood out to you about Media Day? What other stories kind of hit home? What experiences did you experience? How was the food? Matt Ishbia, dude.
Oh, I didn't eat. You didn't miss the food. No, I left before Royce O'Neal. When did you guys go back and eat? Was it after Royce O'Neal?
I went back and ate when Jordan Goodwin came up, and I guess Come On Mala Watch might have came up, but I didn't see him because I was back there eating, dude. And it was Matt Ishbia, for everything that he does. He puts on a great spread for the media, dude. They have these little ahi. No, they didn't have s'mores. Well, I didn't go to the dessert table.
Okay.
They had these little ahi pokey. Ahi tuna pokey on a little spoon.
Yeah.
And you picked it up and ate it. They had New York strip steak, cornbread, jalapeno muffins, and brisket with a cherry barbecue sauce, bro. Oh,
holy fuck. Yeah, he does a good job. Fantastic. With that. I was actually kind of mad because, when Brian Gregory and Matt Ishbia got done with theirs, I think they spent almost an hour on the podium, it seemed like. And I was like, dude, I have to get out of here at 12. I know I'm going to miss the food. I went back there to get some water. It still wasn't set up, so I just had to dip. And that's why I go to games too, to eat dinner. That's really all the reason I go. So
Ishbia does a great job. A lot of SB Nation managers, site managers, we have our Slack channel, and a lot of them are jealous of the Suns because a lot of them, they go to the arena, they pay for the food. They pay to eat when they're, whereas Matt Ishbia is like, dude, here's some prime rib, man. Have a hot dog at halftime, so truly appreciate
everyone stop
that.
Suing me. Look at the spread.
He's like, look at the spread.
Yeah. But I like how you pointed out Jordan Goodwin. Like we are going to be that team. It's like, oh my God, I forgot the Suns have Jordan Goodwin. Like I want to watch, like, let's see what he can do. Like that's how I felt today when I left and I kept seeing the other guys go up. I'm like, oh yeah, come on, Mala Watch. Oh yeah, like Mark Williams. Like it's not just because I'm a Suns fan, but it's new guys on this team that have to prove themselves. But also so many, but they're fun players to watch that are going to bring a lot to the court. They're not just guys that's like, let's see how he develops. We have some of that, but also just Oso and Ryan Dunn. That they're going to improve this year, so they're still going to be a fun watch too. So that's what I kind of took away from Media Day the most.
So. I'll tell you what I took away from Media Day, but I do want. Well, I'll tell you here in a second. Yeah. Lee Corso asks, who's going to play the 4 for this team? Dillon Brooks, who's going to be the 4-man? Who do you think plays the 4?
Did you have Nigel Hayes-Davis?
I don't.
Okay.
I think it's going to be Ryan Dunn, but I think it should be Niles Hayes-Davis at least to start the year.
I don't know, man. I think it's going to be Dillon Brooks, maybe.
Then really at the 4?
Not sure.
I think in a perfect world, you have Nigel Hayes-Davis, who's coming here. He's 30 years old. He's much more mature, and you have Ryan Dunn start coming off the bench and integrate him into it. And again, just because you start doesn't mean you play the most minutes. Doesn't mean you end the game.
Yeah,
and you need to have lineups with Brooks and Dunn out there. But I think that Nigel Hayes-Davis gives you a little bit more offense. And does have the ability on defense to be successful. And again, has a little bit of maturity. And that kind of plays into my number one takeaway from Media Day. And what's funny about Media Day when you go is after the big stars, I mean, granted, this was a Media Day, but it was very muted. Not a lot, other than like loyal local beat writers and content creators, and you and me. It wasn't overly populated. And after a lot of the big stars go, it's even less populated. And so I did miss Come On Mala Watch, and I'm pissed that I did. I have to go back and watch his presser. But again, that fucking brisket was so good. I'm like,
you got to miss somebody.
Yeah,
they should take a break, at least 30 minutes.
In the past, they've done it. They've taken the break, and they didn't do that this year. But when I came back, there was a couple guys. I came back when Rasheer Fleming was talking, and it was good to hear him. But Nigel Hayes-Davis, when he came out, that was easily the highlight of media day for me, because listening to him talk and listening to him, because a lot of guys are going to give you, the basic answers, right? A lot of guys are going to tell you. I'm like logging into something real quick because I have a bunch of quotes that he said, and of course it's like, well, we can't let you look at it unless you give me an multi-factor authentication. Boom, here we go. So a lot of guys give you kind of that first level of an answer, which is pretty basic. But for him, it was interesting because when he came around the corner, he had his phone out and he was taking pictures and he was videotaping it. And the first question was like, well, why are you doing that? And he's like, well, I have a YouTube page. I'm active on social media. And I started it so I can look back at it. And like when you retire and you finish, I know players who've mentioned being able to look back at things in life. And now I'll be able to do that in the future with my children. And if I'm lucky, my grandchildren, I can show them what I was doing, which is a standard answer. It makes sense. But then we peel back a layer and expose the human beneath. And he's like, and not to be sappy, but like my mother, I wasn't old enough to have memories of her parents. And I know that's something my mother wishes I did have memories of. So this way, at least there's footage of what I was doing. I was like, oh, that's insightful. Like, there's and very articulate and deliberate in the way that he spoke. And he shared, and like, there's one story that he shared. Somebody asked, Brandon Mao from Clutch Points asked, what was it like last summer? Because he was part of Team USA last summer. He's part of the select team, which is the group that essentially plays against Team USA to sharpen them up for Paris. And he goes, that time period was the greatest period of my life. And I think about it too long, I'll cry, because it was the happiest I've ever been in my life. And I'm eternally grateful for my agent for allowing that moment to take place. But it was the best 3 weeks I've ever had in my life. And I think it was instrumental for the season I had last year and for me being able to get back here to the NBA. And obviously he went to, he played for Fenerbahce, and he won the EuroLeague MVP. He won the championship. The Triple Crown over there in the EuroLeague. But then he kind of went off, and this is where I thought it was really interesting to get to know him a little bit. He goes, I was able to just be like an annoying fly on the wall. I was just walking around asking everyone, so like, what do you eat in the morning? How do you put your socks on? Which sock do you put on first? What time do you get to the gym? Do you use an alarm clock? What color is the alarm clock? He says, and just to figure out why these 12 great individuals of basketball, what makes them great? And he spent time with Bam Adebayo, and obviously he met Booker there. But it was just answer after answer. It reminded me kind of like the Cam Johnson days, because Cam Johnson would give you really great, insightful answers. And Nigel Hayes-Davis, like, I don't know what the season holds for him, because his situation's unique, right? Like, on one hand, he's joining a roster with 6 players who are either rookies or sophomores, and the organization is inevitably going to hand the reins to them in time. But on the other hand, this is his chance to return stateside and to prove to himself more than anyone else that he belongs in the NBA. So from a basketball perspective, we'll see whether that holds true. But like from a human perspective, I'm rooting unbelievably hard for this dude. Like, you want players like him to succeed. You want to see self-belief rewarded, not because it silences doubters, but because it validates the work, the mindset, the journey. And if it doesn't work out, he'll always have a fan of me, because I sat 20 feet away from him, and hearing him talk about how he processed life was it was impactful. And it was kind of like Damian Lee last year, who had a highly impactful media day conference, which I missed that one last year because I was enjoying whatever Matt Ishbia's spread was.
Well, it's too bad. It's too bad I missed this one, man. I like the fact that he opened up to like, what do these guys do and why are they so great because of it? That's what I always wondered too. I'm like, how are these guys not taking down like what Devin Booker does daily or his workout regime? I know everyone's different in a way, but we're all very much the same. But still, like, to know that detailed stuff, like, to make him that much better, like, that's awesome to hear. That's really cool. I'm really mad I missed that one.
We'll see what happens. Another one of his quotes. Well, the one thing, he dropped a line from The Sopranos, because somebody asked, Dana Scott asked him about like playing in in college, because Dana always asks the great college questions. He knows the history of the players, and he asked him about playing for Wisconsin, beating Villanova. And you ever watch The Sopranos?
Yeah.
All right, so there's that quote, and this is what Nigel Hayes-Davis essentially said. He couldn't get the quote just right, but it's essentially what he said. He's like, I think of The Sopranos when he asked me a question like that. He's like, what's the quote? Yeah, and what the quote was is, remember when is the lowest form of conversation? And that was kind of his response. He's like, I don't try to remember when. I don't go back and think of the past. I'm focused on now and the future. And I was like, that was a great way to say it. And another thing that he said was, he talked about delusional confidence. He goes, the one thing I learned last summer was delusional confidence. Anthony Edwards had that. He's like, he's the walking embodiment of delusional confidence. And obviously it worked. Said that? Nigel Hayes-Davis.
He said that about Anthony Edwards?
Yeah, because Anthony Edwards was on Team USA and he was around him. And he goes, he's the walking embodiment of delusional confidence. And obviously it works. Tremendous player, tremendous talent. I know the way it manifests itself when he was asked the question, they have to cut me. And everyone laughed. And he was dead serious. And I think that right there is like when you say things and you believe things and the room laughs, either because they're uncomfortable or they laugh because they think you're joking. I think you're in a good spot. I mean, quote after quote, man. He's the one. I pulled out my phone. I recorded his whole interview. I was like, dude, this guy is just. I don't know what's going to happen with him this season, but I was unbelievably inspired, and I thought it was just. It's a great addition because on this team with these young guys to have almost like. You ever seen the movie Waiting? Mm-hmm. All right, so in the movie Waiting, and for those of you who haven't seen, it's about one day working in a restaurant. It's got like Ryan Reynolds and Justin Long and Anna Faris, but there's a guy who's like. He works the dish pit, and they go by him, and every time they walk by him, he's just got like some very wise thing to say. Like I feel like that's like going to be Nigel Hayes-Davis. Like they're getting ready, and they walk by him, they're like, "Hey, what do you think about tonight's matchup?" He's just going to lay some like fucking life lesson on him.
Bishop or something like that.
Bishop, that's right.
Was it
that's
Bishop?
Right. Yeah, it was Bishop.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I feel like especially someone that detailed too. Like you kind of want someone to pick up on other things that other people won't. So whether or not he brings that to the players, I hope he does. And that'll definitely help this team in a positive way.
Yeah.
So,
and then they're going to turn around and goat him. Like Ryan Dunn's like, check out the
I was going to say, yeah. So you think he can start at the 4 though? Or is this guy too gentle and going to be in his journal?
No. This guy, like he gets it, man. Like I think he's definitely somebody who, so like the next step for the Suns is training camp. Training camp starts tomorrow. And there's going to be a lot of interesting storylines that come out of training camp. One of them is Jordan Goodwin, as you mentioned, him and Jared Butler, who's good interview with Jared Butler as well. Played for the 76ers, took advantage of an opportunity last year to do so many injuries. Now he's on pretty much a training camp invite. I think he's on an Exhibit 9 contract. But him and Jordan Goodwin are going to be battling it out for the backup to the backup point guard, right? It's going to be Jaylen Green or Devin Booker, however you want to classify it, then Colin Gillespie, then either one of those two. So that's going to be an interesting training camp talking point. Nigel Hayes-Davis fighting for an opportunity to play the starting 4. It will be another training camp invite or training camp storyline. And as we go into the preseason, which starts October 3rd against the Lakers in Palm Desert, and then 2 games in China, and then October 14th against the Lakers again here in Phoenix is the last preseason game. That's when we'll see if Jordan Ott is going to be playing Nigel Hayes-Davis at the 4 to start, or what kind of rotations he's putting him into. And because again, he can stretch the floor, and he talked about that in his press conference as well. He's like, hey, I'm a guy who initially that's not what I did when I played in Wisconsin. I had to learn how to become a 3-point shooter. And guess what? I have the record in EuroLeague for 50 points in a game. Like that's me now. And I made 9 threes in that game. So I've had to change. I've had to adapt. I've had to overcome. Very Clint Eastwood in Heartbreak Ridge on that one. You got to adapt, Marines. You got to overcome. So again, it's one of those things where you walk away. It's media day. You walk away excited, and then like nothing will happen, and I'll forget it happened.
And
by
Booker
like
gets
December.
traded.
Well, it's like Damian Lee last year. Like Damian Lee's story was so inspiring, hearing him come back from the injury and what it meant on a human level, and then like he just never fucking played. You're like, oh
yeah, that's my whole outlook for this year too. Is like, all right, Matthew, you got to keep real. Got to stay real, whatever Dr. Phil used to say, and just
like,
really remember
this is a safe place to talk about hard things.
Yeah, and the hard thing is to really kind of bring out there is this team might be terrible next year, and it might go south. And the worst possible
Yes,
thing is Booker
absolutely.
is just ready to move on. There's a lot of things said today. We all believed in it. We're all eating off the candy tree. I don't know what they say, but we're all just
We're eating
we're
off of
believers
Matt
now.
Ishbia's banquet. And I think that's a great point. Media Day does this to you every year.
Every
It's
time.
the excitement of a new season. And
Utah Watanabe.
Utah Watanabe,
Yeah.
man.
God, that guy's gonna be good.
It's like Zewatanejo, Utah Watanabe. And in the same breath, I think that tempered expectations, and I'll kind of circle back to the front end of the podcast when we talked about this. The expectations of this team are not high. There's no delusion about that this year. It's more of a realistic understanding that this is an adjustment year. It's a developmental year. And that's why we talk about successes being measured and celebrated on the margins versus in the win column. That's our reality. And there's going to be a lot of down moments. And to your point, the development could go sideways as well. Why? Because these players might not be who we want them to be or think they could be. Nigel Hayes-Davis could end up being somebody who the bright lights of playing in the NBA are something that he's not ready to navigate again. Kaman Malawach
5
might have
years, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, he's a 19-year-old big.
Only played 5 years. And
Yeah.
he talks about it a lot, and I hate when he keeps talking about it. But
He's like, hey, man,
he's
I'm brand new
he's
at
still
this.
very young, though. So he can stay 5 years, because that's when he was like 12 years old. So that's how a lot of these guys started when they're 12.
So, I mean, there's a big possibility, and it's going to happen throughout the season when we're like, dude, what the fuck is going on? We don't have our pick next year.
Yeah,
and that's
then
going to be
like,
a big part of the conversation this year, dude.
I know. Yeah, and then these guys keep rolling out off the bench. I'm like, oh, fuck, Jordan Goodwin's in. What the you know what I mean? I was like, oh, wait, in media day, I was excited to hear all these guys' name. And then now I don't want to see him even play a minute. So
he's
it
wearing
could
number
go that
23 this year. Do you know what's
Which
crazy?
way are you leaning, though? Are you
Which way?
leaning more towards that way of it just being a shit show, or just actually there's going to be a lot of development, a lot of good things to take this season headed into the next season?
God, that's a good question. I'm leaning towards this being a disappointing year, but we'll talk ourselves into the silver linings.
Okay.
Because next offseason is going to be the big one, in my opinion. Next offseason is where we take all the information that's occurred this year, and by we, I mean obviously just the organization, not me, and then can make some decisions. And patience must be practiced, and to this point, I feel like it effectively has. Like Jonathan Kuminga is not on the roster. That's a good thing for the Suns. But I think ultimately it's going to be a season that the fan base as a whole will express disappointment in.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll talk ourselves into those silver linings, I think, because they will happen along the way. You go back 10 years ago, it's exactly how it was for the Suns, man. You know, Keith Nettle says 37 wins. I think 37 wins is optimistic.
That's
do.
still better than last year.
That is better than last year by 1 win. You know, but I think that this, you know, Aussie Suns fan says 39 wins. I don't. We'll write this. 52. We'll write this piece for Brightside before the season begins.
Predictions.
And I don't have written down what I think it is yet.
Yeah, I don't know,
but I think like 30 is appropriate. I don't believe in the naysayers who think that like 15, you know, some people are at 15 wins. I'm like, come on, man. Like you have to try hard to be that bad. This team has talent, and they're going to not work potentially, in theory, in silos like the year before. So if teamwork occurs, if communication occurs, if accountability occurs, if cohesion occurs, this team can win 30 games. And I think that is actually a step in the right direction, or at least I'll talk myself into that. What about you?
Oh, man, I don't know yet, because I am already leaning on the side that this team is going to be dreadful. Not in the way of like the last 2 seasons, but just like, fuck, this is going to take a while to rebuild. And these guys are not really hitting. We have the toughness, we have the defense, but we don't have anything else to really rely on.
That was going to be my question. Like, do you feel like offensively it's going to be very tough to watch, or is it defense? Like last year, what made it so tough was defensively they were turnstiles.
Yeah, and you know, Booker said he's very confident in being the guy to make decisions offensively. It doesn't mean he's going to be the point guard, but that's what it kind of sounds like. If he is that guy making the decisions, I think it can work at times, but it's just going to be painful. I think
Yeah.
it's just hard to buy in right now, man. So I don't want to be negative. Obviously, we're going to catch a lot of teams by surprise this year,
man.
Yeah, but I have my predictions might not be agreeable by a lot of people, but this is the NBA. Things change within 10 or 20 games. What you think was going to happen just never happens, and it goes the complete opposite direction. So.
Hell yeah. Very true. Well, on that note, Jamsters, we appreciate you hanging out. It was fun to do Suns Media Day again. Matthew and I are going to continue knocking out some podcasts relative to division previews, and then we'll start to get into the preseason, some predictions, the preseason Jammy Awards. It's all right around the corner. The season is back. Today is the first day, like you tweeted from the Suns Jam Session podcast, Twitter. It's like, hey, school's back in session, man. Like, it's what
I
it
heard
felt
that
like
from
today.
somebody else. Somebody else was next to me and said, hey, happy first day of school. I'm like, oh, that's good.
Typing it in.
I'm going to the bathroom. Yeah.
So here we go. It's going to be interesting this season, but make sure you subscribe, rate, review, hang out with us. We truly appreciate it. But until then, Matthew, tell them what to do.
Go Lumber family.
Hey, you're listening to the Suns Jam Session podcast, shooting the shit about the Suns since 2019.